Eviana had always felt different, not in a way that made her stand out, but in a way that made her feel quietly burdened. While others seemed to move through life with lightness, laughing without hesitation and dreaming without fear, Eviana carried an invisible weight that followed her everywhere. It wasn't something anyone could see, yet it shaped her thoughts, her silence, and the way she existed in the world. She didn't go to school like other girls her age. Her life had taken a different direction, one that required her to grow up faster than she should have. Her days were not filled with lessons, friendships, or playful conversations. Instead, they were filled with responsibilities, expectations, and an unspoken understanding that she had to endure, no matter how heavy things became. Over time, she convinced herself that she was strong, that staying silent and carrying everything without complaint was a sign of resilience. But deep inside, something fragile was slowly wearing down. Eviana lived in a small, quiet home where words were few and emotions were even fewer. The walls seemed to hold echoes of everything that had ever been said, and everything that had been left unsaid. She moved through her days doing what was needed, rarely stopping to ask herself what she wanted. Her family depended on her, and she fulfilled her role without question, believing that her purpose was to give, to support, to stay steady even when everything inside her felt like it was falling apart. But there were moments, quiet and fleeting, when thoughts crept into her mind, questions she didn't dare to speak aloud. She wondered why everything felt so heavy, why her heart felt so full yet so empty at the same time, and why she couldn't remember the last time she truly felt free. Those thoughts scared her, so she buried them, just like she buried every uncomfortable feeling she didn't know how to handle. With time, Eviana became someone who held on to everything. Every harsh word she heard, every moment she felt overlooked, every disappointment she experienced, she stored it all deep within herself. She didn't know how to release pain, so she carried it. She didn't know how to express hurt, so she hid it. Slowly, without realizing it, she built walls around her heart, thick walls made of silence and unprocessed emotions. These walls protected her in some ways, but they also trapped her. She became distant, not because she wanted to be, but because she didn't know how to let anyone in without risking more pain. And so, she remained quiet, strong on the outside, but overwhelmed within. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in soft shades of orange and purple, Eviana sat alone outside her home. The world around her was calm, almost too calm, as if it didn't reflect the storm inside her. Her body was tired from the day's work, but it was her heart that felt the heaviest. That day had been no different from the others, long, exhausting, and unnoticed. No one had asked if she was okay, and she hadn't expected them to. Still, a small part of her wished someone would see her, truly see her, beyond the role she played in their lives. As she watched the sun slowly disappear, a feeling rose within her, something she could no longer ignore. In a soft voice, barely above a whisper, she said, "I don't want to feel like this anymore." The words felt unfamiliar, almost like they didn't belong to her, but they carried a truth she had been avoiding for a long time. That night, Eviana lay awake, unable to escape her thoughts. Memories surfaced one after another, moments she had tried to forget but never truly let go of. She realized that her exhaustion wasn't just physical, it came from carrying years of unspoken pain. Every emotion she had suppressed was still there, quietly weighing her down. For the first time, she understood that holding everything inside wasn't strength, it was slowly breaking her. The realization frightened her, but it also brought a strange sense of clarity. She began to question something she had never considered before: what if she didn't have to carry all of this forever? The idea of letting go felt distant and unfamiliar. Eviana didn't know what it meant or how to begin. Her pain had become a part of her identity, something she had learned to live with. Letting go felt like losing a part of herself, even if that part was hurting her. Still, the thought lingered in her mind, refusing to fade. Over the next few days, she found herself noticing things she had never paid attention to before. She observed the way the wind moved freely, never holding on to anything, and the way the river flowed without resistance, continuing forward no matter what stood in its path. Even the sky changed every day, never clinging to the colors of yesterday. Everything around her seemed to understand something she didn't, that life moves, and in order to move, you must learn to release. One afternoon, drawn by a quiet sense of curiosity, Eviana sat beside a gentle stream. The sound of the water was calming, almost as if it was speaking to her in a language she was beginning to understand. She picked up a small stone from the ground and held it in her hand. It was rough and worn, shaped by time and pressure. As she stared at it, a thought crossed her mind. This stone was just like her, shaped by everything she had been through, carrying marks of every impact it had endured. Without fully realizing why, she held the stone tightly for a moment, then slowly loosened her grip and threw it into the water. The splash was small, barely noticeable, and within seconds, the surface returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. Eviana stared at the water, something shifting inside her. The stone was gone, yet the stream continued to flow, undisturbed. In that simple moment, she felt a quiet realization take form. Letting go didn't mean erasing the past or pretending it never existed, it simply meant no longer allowing it to weigh you down. The stone had not disappeared from existence, it had just been released from her hand. And for the first time, Eviana understood that maybe she didn't have to carry everything she had been holding on to. As she walked back home that evening, her thoughts were different. The heaviness was still there, but it felt slightly lighter, as if something had shifted, even if only a little. She felt a mix of fear and hope, unsure of what this new understanding would mean for her. Letting go was not something that would happen overnight, and she knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, she was willing to try. That night, before she closed her eyes, she made a quiet promise to herself, not to change everything at once, not to become someone new, but simply to begin. To slowly release the weight she had been carrying, one piece at a time. And in that small, almost invisible decision, Eviana took her first step toward freedom. Because sometimes, the most powerful change doesn't come from holding on tighter, it comes from finding the courage to finally let go. Eviana thought that understanding the idea of letting go would bring her peace instantly, but instead, it brought something she hadn't expected, fear, quiet yet powerful, settling deep within her heart as if it had always been waiting for this moment. Because realizing that she didn't have to carry everything anymore also meant facing a truth she had avoided for years, that she had been holding on not just out of habit, but out of fear of who she would become without the weight she had grown used to. And in the days that followed her moment by the stream, she found herself caught between two worlds, one where she continued to carry everything as she always had, and another where she slowly began to loosen her grip, unsure of what would happen next. And this uncertainty made even the smallest step feel overwhelming, because letting go is not just about releasing pain, it is about stepping into the unknown, and the unknown has a way of making even the strongest hearts hesitate. She began to notice how often she held on to things without even realizing it, replaying old conversations in her mind, holding on to words that had hurt her long ago, remembering moments where she felt invisible or unimportant, as if those memories were proof of something she couldn't quite define. And every time she tried to tell herself to let go, a voice inside her would whisper, "But what if this is all you have?" And that voice felt real, convincing, almost protective, as if holding on to the past was somehow keeping her safe from something worse. And that was the hardest part to understand. Because how could something that caused her so much pain also feel like a form of comfort? One evening, as she sat alone in the dim light of her home, she found herself thinking about a moment from years ago, a moment she had never spoken about but had carried with her ever since, a time when she needed understanding but received silence instead. And even now, the memory made her chest tighten, her breath grow heavy, and she realized that she had been living with that feeling for so long that it had become a part of her, something she didn't know how to separate from. And as she sat there, she asked herself a question that felt both simple and terrifying: if I let this go, who will I be without it? Because pain, as heavy as it is, can become familiar, and familiarity, even when it hurts, can feel safer than change. The next morning, everything around her seemed the same quiet routine, the same responsibilities waiting for her, but inside, there was a storm of thoughts she couldn't silence, and she found herself holding on to even the smallest things, a look, a tone, a passing comment, as if her mind was searching for reasons to stay in the same place. And it was then that she began to understand that letting go is not a single decision, it is a continuous choice, one that has to be made again and again, especially in moments when holding on feels easier. Later that day, she returned to the stream, almost as if her heart was guiding her there, and as she sat by the flowing water, she watched leaves fall from nearby trees, landing softly on the surface before being carried away without resistance, and there was something about that movement that caught her attention, something gentle yet powerful, because the leaves did not fight the current, they did not try to stay where they had fallen, they simply allowed themselves to move, and for a moment. Eviana imagined what it would feel like to be like that, to stop resisting, to stop holding on so tightly, and to trust that letting go would not destroy her, but the thought quickly brought back the same fear, because trust is difficult when life has taught you to expect disappointment. She picked up another small object from the ground, this time not a stone, but a dry leaf, fragile and light in her hand, and she held it carefully, noticing how different it felt compared to the weight of the stone she had thrown before, and she realized that not everything she carried was heavy because of what it was, but because of how tightly she held onto it, and slowly, almost hesitantly, she opened her hand and let the leaf fall, watching as it touched the water and drifted away, and unlike before, this time she didn't feel immediate clarity, instead she felt uncertainty, a quiet discomfort that made her question if she was doing the right thing, because letting go does not always feel freeing at first, sometimes it feels like loss. Like releasing something you have known for so long that its absence feels unfamiliar. As the days passed, Eviana continued to struggle with this new path. There were moments when she felt lighter, moments when she believed she could truly change, but there were also moments when the past pulled her back, when old thoughts returned stronger than before, and in those moments, she felt frustrated with herself, wondering why something so simple in idea felt so difficult in reality. But slowly, she began to understand that healing is not a straight path, it moves in circles, in waves, in steps forward and backward, and each time she chose to try again, even after feeling like she had failed, she was moving closer to something she had never experienced before, peace. One night, as she lay awake once again, her mind filled with thoughts she couldn't quiet, she realized something important. She had been waiting for letting go to feel easy before she allowed herself to fully embrace it, but maybe it was never meant to be easy. Maybe the fear she felt was not a sign that she should stop, but a sign that she was stepping into something new, something that required courage rather than comfort. And that realization changed something within her, because for the first time, she stopped expecting herself to feel ready, and instead decided that she would move forward despite the fear, not because she was no longer afraid, but because she was tired of staying in the same place. The next day, as the sun rose gently over the horizon, Eviana stood outside her home, taking a slow, deep breath, and in that quiet moment, she made another promise to herself, not just to try, but to continue trying even when it felt difficult, even when the fear returned, even when letting go felt like the hardest thing she had ever done, because she was beginning to understand that the fear of release is a part of the process, not the end of it, and that true freedom does not come from the absence of fear, but from the decision to keep moving forward despite it. And as she stood there, feeling the soft morning air against her skin, she realized that for the first time in a long time, she was not just surviving her life, she was beginning to change it, slowly, quietly, but in a way that would one day transform everything. By this point in her journey, Eviana had begun to understand that letting go was not something that happened all at once, but something that required time, patience, and courage. Even with this understanding, there were still days when the weight returned without warning. Old memories would rise to the surface, bringing back emotions she thought she had already released. In those moments, it felt like she hadn't moved forward at all. It felt like she was still stuck in the same place. But slowly, she started to notice something different within herself. She was no longer reacting the way she used to. Instead of being completely overwhelmed by her emotions, she began to observe them. She allowed herself to feel without immediately trying to push everything away. And that small change marked the beginning of a new kind of strength. Eviana began to realize that moving on did not mean forgetting the past or pretending that nothing had ever hurt her. It meant accepting what had happened without allowing it to control who she was becoming. This realization was not easy. It forced her to face her pain honestly, without hiding from it. One quiet afternoon, sitting beside the stream, she made a difficult decision. She chose to face one of the memories she had avoided for years. Not to suffer through it again, but to finally understand it. As the memory came back, it brought the same emotions she had always felt: sadness, loneliness, and the deep feeling of being unseen. But this time, she did something different. She didn't run from it. She didn't bury it. She simply allowed herself to feel. Tears filled her eyes, but for the first time, those tears didn't feel like weakness. They felt like release. It was as if something inside her had finally been heard. In that moment, she realized that her pain was not something to be ashamed of. It was a part of her story, but it did not have to define her future. That understanding slowly changed the way she saw herself. She was no longer just someone who carried pain, she was someone who was learning to grow beyond it. Days turned into weeks, and Eviana continued this quiet practice. She gave herself permission to feel her emotions without judging herself for them. And little by little, the weight she carried began to feel lighter. It didn't disappear completely, but it no longer controlled her the way it once did. She began to understand that true strength was not about tolerating everything in silence, it was about knowing when to release what was hurting her. There were still moments of doubt. Sometimes the old fears would return, telling her that she would never truly be free. But now, she had something she didn't have before: belief in herself. She started to trust that even if she struggled, she would find her way forward again. That belief became her foundation, something she could hold on to when everything else felt uncertain. One morning, as she walked through her village, she noticed something unusual. Everything looked the same, yet it felt different. The paths she had walked so many times felt lighter. The air felt fresher, and she realized that the world had not changed, she had. The shift had happened inside her. And for the first time, she understood that her peace did not depend on her surroundings. It depended on her willingness to let go and move forward. Later that day, she returned to the stream once again. It had become a quiet place of reflection for her. As she watched the water flow, she understood something clearly. Moving on was not about reaching a point where pain no longer existed. It was about continuing forward even when pain was still there. It was about choosing growth over staying stuck in the past. She picked up a small stone and held it in her hand for a moment. This time, it felt different. She wasn't holding onto it out of habit or fear. She was simply aware of it. And then, with calmness instead of hesitation, she released it into the water. As the stone disappeared beneath the surface, she didn't feel confusion or fear. She felt peace. In that quiet moment, Eviana realized something powerful. She was no longer the girl who carried everything in silence. She was becoming someone who could let go, someone who could heal, someone who could move forward without being held back by what once hurt her. Her journey was not over yet. There was still more to face, more to learn. But she was no longer afraid of what lay ahead. Because now she understood that strength was not about holding on to everything. True strength was about knowing when to finally let go, and having the courage to keep moving forward. By the time Eviana reached this stage of her journey, something within her had quietly transformed. It was not a loud or sudden change that the world could easily notice, but a deep, steady shift inside her heart. The weight she had carried for so long was no longer controlling her every thought and feeling. It still existed in small ways, like faint echoes of the past, but it no longer defined who she was. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of space within herself, a lightness she had never known before. She began to understand that letting go was not about becoming someone new, but about returning to who she was before the pain became so heavy. For years, she had believed that her struggles were her identity, that the silence she lived in was all she would ever be. But now, she saw something different. Beneath all the pain, beneath all the memories she had carried, there was still a part of her that had always been strong, calm, and capable of healing. She had not lost herself, she had simply been buried under everything she refused to release. One morning, Eviana woke up before sunrise. The world was still quiet, wrapped in a soft calmness that felt almost sacred. She stepped outside and looked at the sky as it slowly began to change colors. For a long time, she had watched the world move around her without truly feeling a part of it. But this time was different. This time, she felt present. She felt connected. The cool air touched her skin, and instead of feeling heavy, she felt awake, as if something inside her had finally opened. She took a deep breath, and for the first time, it didn't feel forced. It felt natural. Free. In that moment, she realized something powerful: nothing outside of her had changed. Her home was the same. Her responsibilities were still there. The world had not suddenly become easier. But she had changed the way she carried it all. And that made all the difference. Eviana began to move through her days with a new awareness. She still faced challenges, still had moments where old feelings tried to return, but now she knew how to respond. Instead of holding on to every thought and emotion, she allowed them to pass through her. She no longer gave her energy to things that only brought her pain. She had learned that not everything deserved to stay in her heart. There were moments when she would pause, close her eyes, and remind herself of how far she had come. She remembered the girl who once sat in silence, carrying everything alone, believing that she had no choice but to endure. And now, she saw someone different, someone who had chosen to face her pain, to understand it, and to finally release it. That realization filled her with a quiet pride, not loud or boastful, but deep and steady. One evening, she returned once more to the stream, the place where her journey had truly begun. The water flowed just as it always had, calm and constant, never holding on to anything that passed through it. She stood there for a long moment, reflecting on everything she had experienced. The fear, the confusion, the pain, and the slow, difficult process of letting go. She picked up a small stone, holding it gently in her hand. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel like something she needed to release. It was just a stone, nothing more, nothing less. And that's when she realized the truth. It was never the weight of things that hurt her the most. It was the way she held on to them. With a soft, peaceful smile, she let the stone fall from her hand into the water. Not as an act of struggle, not as something painful, but as something natural. Something simple. The stone disappeared beneath the surface, and the water continued to flow, just as life does. Eviana didn't feel loss in that moment. She felt freedom. She understood now that letting go is not about forgetting your past or pretending it never mattered. It's about accepting it, learning from it, and choosing not to carry it into your future. It's about making space for new emotions, new experiences, and a new version of yourself. As she turned to walk back home, there was a quiet confidence in her steps. She didn't have all the answers about her future, and she didn't need to. For the first time, she trusted herself enough to move forward without fear of what might come. Her life was still simple. Her path was still uncertain. But her heart was no longer heavy. And that changed everything. Because Eviana had discovered something many people spend their whole lives searching for, the understanding that true peace does not come from holding on to everything, but from having the courage to finally let it go. And in letting go, she didn't lose anything. She found herself.